Grace and peace to you. Welcome to Morning Watch. I'm Rob, one of the pastors here at White Plains. Glad to have you with us today. This is where we gather for a song and a thought for the day. So glad you're with us whenever you're watching. Morning, Keith. And good morning to you whenever you are joining us. Well, let's begin our time together by going to God in prayer. Open unto me light for my darkness. Open unto me courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me peace for my turmoil. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom for my confusion. Open unto me forgiveness for my sins. Open unto me love for my hates. Open unto me thyself for myself. Lord, Lord, open unto me. Amen. Amen. Morning, Florida. Morning, Steve. Yeah, you might be right, my friend. So today we're going to talk more about Dr. Howard Thurman and a little bit about his love of nature and how he experienced God in that particular way. And it seemed appropriate to me to play this beloved song from Rich Mullins for it. Well, the moon moved past Nebraska and spilled laughter on them cold Dakota hills. Angels danced on Jacob's stairs. Danced on Jacob's stairs. There is a silence in the Badlands. Over Kansas the whole universe was stilled by the whisper of a prayer. Whisper of a prayer. And the silver hawk bursts into flight. In the east the whole horizon is in flames. Feel the thunder in the sky. I see the sky about to rain. And I hear the prairies calling out your name. I can feel the whole earth tremble neath the rumbling of the buffalo hoofs. Fury in a pheasant's wings. Yeah, there's fury in a pheasant's wings. It says that the Lord is in his temple, and there's still a faith that can make the mountains move, and a love that can make the heavens ring. I've seen love make heavens ring, where the sacred rivers meet beneath the shadow of the keeper of the plains. Feel the thunder in the sky, see the sky about to rain, and I hear the prairies calling out your name. From the place where morning gathers, you can look sometimes forever till you see what time may never know. What time may never know. How the Lord takes by its corners this old world and shakes us forward, shakes us free, to run wild with the hope. Run wild with hope. The hope that this thirst will not last long, and it will soon drown in a song not sung in vain. Feel the thunder in the sky, see the sky about to rain, and I hear the prairies calling out your name. I know this thirst will not last long, and it will soon drown in a song not sung in vain. Feel the thunder in the sky, see the sky about to rain, and then with the prairies I am calling out your name. Have I mentioned I like this baritone guitar? Alrighty. Rich Mullins, indeed a fellow mystic, I think. Well, we continue reading through this book, What Makes You Come Alive? A Spiritual Walk with Howard Thurman by Dr. Louisa Coleman Brown, and companioning that with some readings from Thurman, and even Thurman himself, which I think I'll get back to one of those tomorrow. I've only got a couple of those left to share with you. So, and we're going to go right through Monday and Tuesday next week, wrapping this up. And on Ash Wednesday, we'll begin doing a Lenten devotional, and I'm going to use a pretty classic work this year by Henri Nouwen called Show Me the Way, or Show the Way, I think. And so if you're interested in following along with that during Lent for a daily devotional, it'll be Show the Way by Henri Nouwen. Morning, Robin. So we've mentioned this before about Thurman's childhood, growing up in Florida, and his in the oppressive racial atmosphere of that time. One of the ways that he escaped and from that and survived that was through his I don't really want to call it a retreat into nature, but his foray, how about that, into the natural world and his encounter with God there. He writes, when I was a boy, I was always driven to worship when I saw a storm come up on the shores of the Atlantic Ocean on the Florida coast. A stillness pervaded everything. The tall seagrass stood at attention. As far out as my eye could go, the surface of the sea was untroubled, quiet, but expectant. I could almost hear the pounding of my own heart against my ribs. You can see why I chose the Rich Mullins song, right? Dr. Brown writes that young Howard Thurman frequently rowed a small boat on the Halifax River near his home in Daytona Beach, Florida, and wandered in the woods nearby. Nature became a place for him to flee the physically and psychologically terrorizing atmosphere of the Jim Crow South in the early 1900s. Outdoors, he could momentarily escape this reality and sense a oneness with everything: trees, the ocean, and the night sky. As children, many of us discovered this solace outside. Perhaps we felt attached to a loving and expansive presence outside long before we ever felt God inside a church. I know many people now for whom they'll encounter God in nature, but they wouldn't set foot in a church. Perhaps you know similar folks. Thurman gives voice to the often to the sense of the sacred that children experience in the natural world. The ocean and the night together surrounded my little life with a reassurance that could not be affronted by the behavior of human beings, he writes. The ocean at night gave me a sense of timelessness, of existing beyond the reach of the ebb and flow of circumstances. The experience of those storms gave me a certain overriding immunity against much of the pain with which I would have to deal in the years ahead, when the ocean was only a memory. But the sense held. I felt rooted, or as we've heard Dr. Thurman say, rooted in life, in nature, in existence. Now, some would even label Thurman a nature mystic, but I think, as Dr. Brown suggests, that Thurman would likely argue that an experience of God can happen anywhere, in nature, during worship, or while in private prayer. But this awareness of his connection to God in the natural world is vitally important to him and to us, I think. In his autobiography and in several other books, Thurman mentions that something ineffable called him outside at an early age. He considered nature to be a friend, a consoler, and a source of mystical union. He wrote, "As a child, I was accustomed to spend many hours alone in my rowboat, fishing along the river, when there was no sound save the lapping of the waves against the boat. These were times when it seemed as if the earth and river and sky and I were one beat of the same pulse. It was a time of watching and waiting for what I did not know, yet I always knew. There would come a moment when beyond the single pulse there was a sense of presence, which seemed always to speak to me. My response to the sense of presence always had the quality of personal communion. There was no voice, there was no image, there was no vision. There was God." And there he speaks to that encounter with God that, like we read yesterday, all doctrines and dogmas flow from our experience. In nature's quietness, Thurman could hear what he called the harmony of creation. Nature represents the interrelatedness of all things. Through his writings, he reminds us how the divine dwells among us and is particularly palpable outside. As we walk with Howard Thurman through nature, we learn from his keen observations. We begin to read the symbols of the divine that populate outside spaces. The signature of God is all around me, Thurman writes, in the rocks, in the trees, in the minds of men. The sense of unity and rootedness he felt in nature transformed into overarching themes for his life and his work. So how is a walk in nature to you? Good? I love those writings because it reminded me of the preparedness that he talks about, that prayer and communion with God is the entire process. That sometimes we might experience God in a moment, but often it is when we quiet the outside world, when we quiet the inner world through prayer, meditation, silence. Only then, in the stillness, do we hear that still small voice that the scriptures tell of. This communion with nature, this use of the natural world as a sanctuary, in a place, in a setting to meet God, leads you to a passion for it. I wanted to read you a writing that I found of Thurman's in a book called The Search for Common Ground, um, talking about our inability to separate ourselves from nature and the consequences when we mistreat this world. Thurman wrote, "Man cannot separate himself from nature without withering as a cut rose in a vase. One of the deceptive aspects of mind in humans is to give them the illusion of being distinct from and over against, but not a part of nature. It is but a single leap thus to regard nature as being so completely other than himself that he may exploit it, plunder it, and rape it with impunity. This we see all around us in the modern world." Remember when he's writing now. "This we see all around us in the modern world. Our atmosphere is polluted, our streams are poisoned, our hills are denuded, wildlife is increasingly exterminated, while more and more man becomes an alien in the earth and a fowler of his own nest. The price that is being exacted for this is a deep sense of isolation, of being rootless and a vagabond. Often I have surmised that this condition is more responsible for what seems to be the phenomenal increase in mental and emotional disturbances in modern life than the pressures, economic, social, and political, that abound on every hand." I want to read that again. He's saying that the disconnect, the condition of disconnect from the world, can be more responsible for mental and emotional disturbances than the pressures of modern life. The converse of that, if you flip that, is that a deep sense of connectedness and rootedness in God's creation can help against the pressures of the world, economic, social, and political, that abound on every hand, he says. The collective psyche shrieks with the agony that it feels as a part of the death cry of a pillaged nature. Thurman was literally the original tree hugger. Well, maybe not the original, but he was certainly fit that description. His writings about trees and comparing the cycle of life there to the cycle of our own life are numerous. A rootedness in God's creation, in what God has done and is continuing to do and will do, can help us against the pressures. What does he say? Economic, social, and political, that abound on every hand. Amen, Dr. Thurman. Words for us to take to heart today. And maybe go out for a walk this morning before the rains come in later this afternoon. All right. Have a great day, folks. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing, liking, and all that. That's right, Florida. Florida says we need some Elijah moments in our life to hear the still small voice of God. God was not in the hurricane or the fire, but after was that still small voice, right? Morning, Terry. All right, y'all. Have a great day. Thanks for being here. May you find peace and purpose in this day. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.